Congressman, getting into what's happening on the economic front, we read your quotes a few weeks ago about Bernie Sanders, paraphrasing, basically he sold out or he flip-flopped, and then Grayson running around saying we beat the Fed. You're the real expert in Congress, recognized on this with the Fed. What really happened?
Well, we got 1207 passed into the House reform bill, and that bill passed on the House floor. The big vote was in the committee, so that's in there, even though it's in a very bad bill. When it got to the Senate, Bernie Sanders is the one that introduced 1207 and 604, I believe, in the Senate, and at the last minute, he changed his mind and took what the establishment agreed to, another severely watered-down version of it. It wasn't really an audit. It was just a glimpse of what's been going on for the past 2 years, which it had already agreed to. But it passed, I think 96-0, and the administration agreed to. Obama said he'd sign it, and Democratic and Republican leadership agreed to that. And then the 1207 version was brought up by Vitter, and when that got to the Senate floor, we only got 37 votes. So I think people should pay attention to those who did not vote for the real audit language in the Senate, and this to me is a bailout for the system and for the Federal Reserve. But now they have finally passed that version in the Senate, and it's going to conference. So I'm trying to keep an eye on that very closely and see if we can influence the conference. And I just don't know whether we get that modified or what will happen. But I think right now the cards are stacked against us. But we're going to keep fighting, because the more attention we get and the more the people know, I think we can be proud of how far we've gotten already and how much people know about it. But
well, that's right, Congressman. 25 years ago, you didn't get one co-sponsor when you were first in Congress. Now you passed it in the House. It went to the Senate. I saw a headline where you were saying that those that voted against your audit the Fed bill will be held accountable, though, by the voters.
Oh, yeah, they should be. And every time, you think of the Republicans will retaliate against Republicans. And, we saw that in Utah. So these votes are very important. And the bailout vote was crucial in a lot of this stimulus for the Tea Party movement. So this is just another vote that we can use and help alert the people.
We've only got about 6 minutes left with Congressman Ron Paul. His time is so precious. We're going to give you some websites before he leaves so you can get involved in the Campaign for Liberty or Rand Paul's campaign, which is so important. But looking at the border situation, the Deputy Homeland Security Director said last Friday that they may not process illegals referred to them from Arizona. I've already seen previous reports of where sheriffs and others release illegals for serious crimes out of jail, and the feds won't pick them up. Is this not serious dereliction of duty and or treason by Homeland Security?
So much could be solved with our use of our Constitution and the principle of private property. If you have somebody walking your house and they're trespassing, and they might not have even committed a crime, they might not have, shot anybody or stolen anything yet, they just trespass, and they walk in your house, and they have no right to be there. We call the police, and the police call them, and they prosecute them. But they don't apply that to people who are walking across this land and walking across these ranches. As a matter of fact, even if you do anything to stop trespassers, you can get into trouble. You're taking the law into your own hands. The states aren't allowed to do what they should do. And when the states finally get totally frustrated, they have to pass a law that then is argued about. I have some reservations about that law, but not about the intent and what they're trying to do and the dereliction of duty of the federal government. I would like to see more approach to this. That if you can't get them at the border and stop the influx, then as soon as they apply, for benefits, then that's when we should deal.
I
with
agree.
it.
Deny them the welfare benefits, and that will stop. But the government again wants this dependent group. Were you in the chamber when Calderon lectured and said repassed the assault weapons ban, effectively taking semi-automatics from American people?
Nope, I wasn't there, and that's a personal thing with me. There's a limit to what I can actually tolerate some days. So I did listen to it on TV and all, but I didn't feel like I should be present there.
I mean, did that disgust you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it disgusted me, but I knew what he was going to say, and why do we give... I mean, about a couple of years ago, they had Karzai down there. I mean, Karzai is just our henchman that we have a hired gun. And they have him here down there as a head of a state and talking to a joint session of Congress. I mean, that's more than I need.
Well, his brother is admittedly, even in the New York Times, the top opium king.
Yeah. And one of these days, we'll depose him. Something will happen. He'll be gone. And, the big thing over there right now is this battle is about to start in Afghanistan. And there's no guarantees that even with all our military might that we're going to have a military victory there. We will not have a political victory. It'll be a political defeat because it'll just further stimulate hatred and all the other problems that you get by occupation of foreign countries. But militarily, whether this battle can be won is the real question.
Well, Congressman, that's part of my last two questions, then we'll let you go. Specifically, with the entire geopolitical situation, North Korea on a war footing, the Pentagon saying they're ready for war. Meanwhile, our own government helped give the reactors to North Korea, as you know. You've got the Israel saying they may strike Iran. Obama saying he would, support them if they did. You've got the Predator drones, 1,000 of them now, going in to Pakistan, which many experts say is an act of war. You've said the Iran sanctions are an act of war. I mean, it looks like the buildup to World War I or World War II. Can you speak to the overall atmosphere, and does the system have a desire to have a world crisis? And then finally, what do you see with the EU meltdown?
Well, it sort of blows my mind when I think about our financial crisis and not only the meltdown of the European nations, but ours as well. And that they hardly blink an eye that they can talk about spreading this war in the Middle East into Iran, to continue the civilian CIA bombing of these various countries. But this thing in Korea, it's way out of proportion to what we should be doing. I resent the fact that a generation or two ago, we have signed these treaties, have been involved, and have had troops in Korea all that time, and we're just sitting there. If there's ever a problem, we get dragged into it. But this week, we had a resolution on the House floor. There were 3 of us that voted against it. And the resolution was essentially an authorization to go war, do whatever is necessary. And the circumstances that we live today, you never come to the Congress and make a declaration of war. We have these so-called promises. But how can one generation promise the next generation that we will deliver all the money and all the soldiers that will be necessary? We should just bring ourselves out of those situations. But this thing was just overwhelmingly passed. But it was billed as, expressing our concerns and our condolences for the people who died there. And then at the bottom, it gives the authority to say, and we do authorize, whatever force and whatever is necessary to take care of this problem.
Well, it's the same thing with the finances in Europe. Same thing that happened here. Taking the pension funds, raising the taxes, VAT taxes. Europe is now sinking into the central bank design trap. In closing, you've been talking about a total global meltdown for a long time, based on derivatives, Dr. Paul. And now it looks like we're approaching the vortex.
Yeah, we're getting awfully close, and people try to get me to say when I think it's going to happen, and I don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but I know it is unsustainable because the dollar is still being trusted, and that is a subjective event. People subjectively still say, well, we can trust the dollar. It is the world currency. But eventually they'll lose trust in the dollar, and I think if you look at the devaluation of the dollar against gold, you realize that something big is going on right now, because up until a month or two ago, the gold and the dollar always was related to the stock market and other currencies and commodities. But right now, more people are seeing the devaluation of the dollar against gold, which is the ultimate measurement. And that means that the time is getting much closer to the rejection of the system. I mean, the Europeans are broke. We're bailing them out with dollars. How about the cities? They're broke. Are we going to let cities and states fail after bailing out Wall Street and bailing out Greece? There's no way. They're always going to come to the rescue, print the money, and they're going to inflate until the point when the people are holding the dollars overseas say, we're spending them. The Chinese are pretty smart people. They're spending those dollars. They're around buying natural resources around the world with dollars they earn from us. At the same time, we think we have to protect our natural resources by invading countries and occupying and protecting our oil. We have lost our way.
And clearly, we have a revolution of liberty and freedom, a restoration of the republic, led by yourself and Rand Paul. Give us the websites for people to get involved with your campaign, with Campaign for Liberty, with Rand, with everybody in putting out the alternative to the New World Order.
Well, all my websites can be found by ronpaul.org, and I think Rand's is randpaul.com. So ronpaul.org will get you to about 6 of my websites.